That was cool. But yeah, so welcome everybody to the Last of Us podcast. Not the official HBO one, but one that's almost just as good. At least coming from me, I think it's almost just as good. This is episode 5 where we are covering The Last of Us's HBO episode 7. So I'm one of your co-hosts. My name is the Red Viking, and over here is my other co-host.
I'm Shell Pop.
And this episode starts off right at the tail end of the previous one where you see Joel. He is laying on the floor. He is gray as all can be, not looking too good. And you have Ellie right over top of him, trying to work with him, trying to fix the guy up because he is still bleeding out like there's no tomorrow. Because if you saw the previous episode, you know that he got stabbed by the butt end of a baseball bat. So, spoiler, never pull stuff out when you get impaled with something. It's very bad. Keep the flow in. This is just me as a paramedic saying, goodness, please don't do that. But anyways, they did what they did. He's bleeding out heavily. He's not doing good. And he says to Ellie something that really bothers her, which he says, just go to Tommy. He is basically admitting that he thinks he is going to die. And he still believes, even in his dying thoughts, that go to Tommy for safety, get this mission finished kind of deal. And immediately we cut over to the meat and potatoes of this episode, which is from The Last of Us Part 1's video game. It is their much lauded, much loved expansion called Left Behind, where we get a nice deep dive into Ellie before she met with Joel.
I would say immediately as he tells her to go to Tommy, is Ellie starts to leave and hesitates at the door. And that's when that's when they kind of initiate, this is her flashback. So
yeah, because it really brings her back to what happened to her. And what was it, a few weeks prior to meeting Joel, or was it a few months? Do you know the timeline?
I don't remember the timeline on it.
Okay.
I'm trying to think what that. I'm gosh, it would be at least a few weeks, if not a month or two.
Right.
Because she was kept in quarantine for quite a while because they were like, we don't trust that she's not going to turn, but then they were still testing it.
Yeah. At least they had the decency to not just put a bullet into her, which happens to basically everyone when you see a bite mark.
Yeah.
But yeah, we get that flashback where the first thing that we have, she's kind of in this PE sort of course. She's in this Fedra, a recruitment camp school thing. And immediately we get the sense that Ellie is not very well liked in school. And there's this one girl that decides to pick on her a little bit. Ellie, being Ellie, is not going to put up with this and gets into a hospital with this girl. I can't remember what her name is for the life of me, but I don't think that's too important.
Yeah, I don't remember her name. Beth, we'll call her Beth.
Beth. So yeah, Beth is like, hey, your friend is not here to protect you, so what are you going to do? And they get into a fight, and the next scene that you have, Ellie has a black eye. She's in basically the principal's office. Yeah. And you find out that she gave Beth 15 stitches, I believe it was. She did a number to her.
Yeah.
And you find out as well that this is not the first time that she has been in the principal's office. She has a little bit of a temper on her. And the principal really, really is trying so hard to reach out to her that you can be so much more. You could be leading this one day. You are extremely intelligent. You have all the qualities of what would make a good leader. But the one issue that she has is her temper. If she could keep her emotions in check, if she could think before reacting to things, she could go so far. She'd be better off than a lot of these other girls that they are training. Because once you reach a certain age at Fedra school, you are assigned a position. whether that is something very, very low ranking or high of what he was saying that Ellie could one day be.
Yeah.
But more or less it was up to her to do that. So, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, like I was kind of thinking, and it's something that I've been, like kind of looking into just for myself sometimes, is like sometimes I get um either like really excited or um whatever, and I push too fast into stuff, or I start
Mm.
like get excited, whatever, and like even like with this, I notice like it's one thing, like and I'm trying to do it a little bit now, is slow down my speaking, because I
Oh, okay,
notice that
okay.
I get really like, okay, we got this and this and this and this and this and this, and then I'm like, well, like I don't feel like I sound like myself,
Mm.
if you ever
Okay, okay.
if you ever listen to yourself like on a recording, and then you listen to yourself on like in your head, you're like, do I sound like that really?
Yeah,
and
that's a great point. Yep.
and so that's what, in some ways, like with Ellie, he's like, you're smart,
Hmm.
you don't need to just lash out, you need to think this through and process it, because
Hmm.
that's your strength, is that that girl's, Beth or whatever, she is just going to she's just eventually she's just going to be a grunt, because
Yeah.
that's who she is.
Yeah.
And then he's like, you're smart, and if you use your head like I know you're capable of, and that's what they've really been pushing for at least the last two episodes,
Yeah.
is that Ellie's really smart.
Hmm.
She's her brain processes stuff different than a Joel, or that typical grunt, and that's, I think that's kind of how they put it, is like there's the smart people, and then there's the ones that you have fight for you, or the grunts ones, which is ultimately, we'll say that we haven't talked about it yet, but her friend was her
Hmm.
grunt, and so that was a really important talking point, and I think also a very valuable thing for all of us in a way, is, and I always kind of say it with like when people like, well, I just got emotional and I reacted, and it's like,
Yeah.
it's really good to recognize that you have emotions, that you're sad, you're angry, you're whatever, because once you recognize that you have emotions, you can say, why am I having this emotion? and
Yeah.
then and then you can kind of, it'll make you sit back, and it's like, okay, I'm mad at this person, but if I do this and this, I'm just going to get in trouble. But if I slow
Hmm.
down a little bit and say, hey, I'm going to go this direction, I'm going to choose option B rather than going with the easy option A,
Hmm.
you're going to get a better result. And because it's like a lot of people, it's like, well, like say you're like, I don't want to go out and party and everything tonight. I want to do something that's going to, it's like somebody in college. I can either go party with my friends, or I can
Hmm.
take some time and study.
Yeah.
Party is the easy option to do, and it's the very much emotional, I want to go hang out with my friends. But if you're
Hmm.
like, okay, but ultimately, what do I want out of life? Which is what he's asking Ellie. What do you
Yes,
want out of
because
life?
he does the whole option between the keys or the other option.
And so he challenges her to think,
Hmm.
and I think that was a smart move, because Ellie does kind of like, with him, she's not going to lash out, and so she steps back into her emotion and says, okay, and she's still emotional, But when he's
Hmm.
like, okay, which one are you going to do? And that's what she's like, well, I'll choose option B, or
Yeah.
I'll choose the better way because I'd rather have her answering to me than to me just being another grunt. So
Yeah. Yeah, so that was the end of that scene. The next one we get, she is reading one of her famous comic books that she absolutely loves, and you get to see her in her, I'll call it a dorm room, where
yeah,
she's just relaxing. Um, you can see that she is still resistant to any sort of authoritative figure because one of the people is going around and telling people lights off and stops at her door. It's like, turn it off. And you see her hesitate, and begrudgingly she turns it off and she goes to sleep.
mm,
Followed by the next scene where a mysterious stranger lifts up the window, crawls into her room, and then she puts her hand, or its hand, onto Ellie, freaks Ellie out, where she ends up lashing out, kicking, grabbing her knife, pointing it, and then realizes it is her friend Riley.
Riley. And you know, and it's one thing that I pick up and notice through like from this point on, that I think they, like, there's stuff that they kind of change in the end, but these two really are good friends. Like you think of like your
Mm-hmm.
best friend, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just like there's so much trust that you have in that person. And she has that, like, I trust this person. I trust my friend so much. And so when Riley's like, "Okay, we're going to go do something cool. Do you trust me?" There is no like, "Well, I don't know." It's yes. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Um
Which is what's really interesting with you mentioning that is that's exactly what Joel says to Ellie quite a few times. When Joel's about to go off and do something, he always stops and says, "Do you trust me?" Where she will say yes, and then he will go do his thing.
yeah. And yeah, and Ellie's learned like, well, and I think that's the thing is like Ellie does have to have people earn their trust or earn her
Hmm.
trust. And but when she does trust them.
Yeah.
Which is also like when we go back to Ellie's got the potential to be a good leader. She
Hmm.
trusts people when somebody says I will do it, she trusts them to do their job.
Yeah. She really, really, really believes in people,
Yeah.
which
And
is fantastic.
yeah,
But
and
it does
so
open her up to a lot of hurt.
oh yeah. Um Leaves you open to a lot of disappointment and whatever else. So
Yeah.
yeah, so um but yeah, I really think like like they really build what I would say is a really good friendship
Hmm.
between these girls that
Yeah.
I think is really, no matter if you go the direction they do at the end or not,
Hmm.
it's a good friendship.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's something that I there's a friend that I have like that like a very similar like that quality of friendship. Yeah, I'm not gonna go kiss him or anything, but I have that I have that friendship where he's like, "Do you trust me?" Yes, yes, I
Mm.
do. And he's took me to do some really dumb things, but
That's what happens. You open
or
yourself up to it.
but they're
Yeah,
great adventures. Yeah. So
yeah,
um, anyway,
yeah. So what happens is Ellie finds out that Riley has this awesome night planned out for Ellie, even though Ellie or Riley shows up at 2 a.m. in Ellie's room. Ellie, after a little bit of hesitancy of like, hey, it's 2 a.m., what the heck are you doing here? I got stuff that I gotta do in the morning, blah, blah, blah. She decides to go with Riley anyway. So puts on her gear, they head on outside through, I'm assuming probably the window. They didn't really show that scene, but I
they
think it's
went
a
out through
safe
the window.
assumption.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Out the
They go
window,
traveling
down the
around a
fire
little
escape.
bit. Yeah, probably. Yeah, they end up going traveling around on the streets a little bit, find this window, hop through it, and they're greeted with this dead body in a hallway. That's fairly creepy, and Riley does admit that that body was not there before. And they find some liquor, this bottle full of liquor, right beside. Slowly go ahead, grab the bottle, and then the body decides to fall right through the floor and freaking the girls out a little bit. But hey, we got alcohol and we are super young, like 15, 16 years old, however old they are.
I think Ellie's 14,
14,
and
okay.
her
Riley was like
friend's
16, I think.
16 because she was almost 17, and I guess that's when they give them their.
Yeah, it's almost like I got the impression of it's almost like a foster care system where you get to a certain age and then they kick you out or they make you start having to live your life, like, work a job,
Yeah,
which they're going to assign her to something. But yeah, so you get this nice scene where they go up on top of the balcony, they're overlooking the area where, Phaedra is, and then you find out that Riley has joined the Fireflies.
and Ellie is not
So
happy.
not happy. And one thing I forgot to mention is Riley had been missing for a couple of weeks. So it was a
Yes.
really big shock for Ellie to see Riley at this moment and has all these questions of where were you, what's going on, why did you show up at 2 a.m. after 2 weeks? Like, all these questions that Ellie likes to interrogate people with. But they decide to open up the bottle, have a couple sips of this liquor that they got that was from, as they refer to it, the before time.
Yes.
So,
Before everything went downhill.
yeah, exactly. Any thoughts on this, or?
I'm not really a drinker myself, so
Mhm.
but I look at it and I listen to their official podcast, and they kind of say, and I see it in some circles, and definitely see it more in Hollywood, how they talk about it, or how they talk about it and they put it in the movie is almost like sometimes that drinking is a rite of passage for certain teens or something like that.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. Okay.
and while I'm like, okay, whatever, like I do see how um it, like alcohol can change things, or alcohol is, like different. And in some ways, alcohol is known as an what is it, inhibitor or whatever. Or like it you're
Yeah, it
you're
can
more open,
remove. Yeah, yeah. It
and
can kind of
so
break down that guard that people are having. So theoretically, they could have good conversations, but usually people overdo it and they just become stupid,
yeah,
so to speak. But in this one, it was kind of a way for Riley to be like, here's what's going on, because she was so nervous to really tell Ellie much of anything
yeah,
before that point. This is kind of like, let's break the ice and clear the air a little bit.
yeah. So I thought it, like it, the way they used it, I didn't think it was like, it's like gratuitous drinking or something. It was like two girls like taking a couple of sips of alcohol. They weren't drunk, I don't
No,
think you could get
no.
drunk off of how much they drank, like you might get a little more
I mean, Ellie is
energetic or
pretty
whatever.
small, so
Yeah,
maybe, but I thought it was funny how they showed the reaction to the girls, because it was, as far as I could tell, it was the first time for Ellie anyway having any taste of alcohol, and the
yeah,
face that she made of it was hilarious.
yeah.
It was really good. And you can see even in this day, or even in their universe, you try not to show how gross it actually tastes and make this funny face or lose your voice like, ugh, it's disgusting. Instead, she was like, oh yeah, this isn't so bad.
Well, yeah,
So
I think
yeah.
it's like they've, well, in a lot of cases taught or have thought, don't show weakness.
Yeah.
And so it's like if you're like, oh, that's bitter, it's horrible, I hate it, I hate it.
Yeah.
yeah, you're showing weakness. You're just yeah, and so it's like, yeah, I'm not going to show weakness because weakness gets you killed.
Yeah. So moving along, Riley says that she has something awesome planned for Ellie, that she has to see this. She can't go back to her dormitory yet. She has to experience this. Ellie or Riley has something really awesome planned, which definitely piques Ellie's interest. But at the same time, Ellie is trying to keep the conversation on, you join the Fireflies? You know, these people are not good, and all of this kind of stuff. And Riley at that moment still being quite coy about things. It's like, hey, don't worry about that. Let's go check out this thing. So they end up going to, or Riley tells Ellie, we're gonna go to this place, the mall, which is supposed to be absolutely infested or absolutely obliterated with infected, which gets Ellie going, what on earth? Why are you doing this? We were told to stay away from here, and this is the reason why. To which Riley responds of, you don't see it actually locked down anymore right now, do you? Which really caught Ellie off guard because this place is supposed to be so off bounds that it's locked up, it is impenetrable, and it's because we want to keep what is inside. Reluctantly, Ellie decides to go down there, trusting Riley. And Riley says, okay, trust me a little bit more. Go through this room, hang a right, go down there. Everything's going to be fine. After a little bit of back and forth, Ellie decides to go ahead, trust Riley on this, goes in there, and then you get this scene of all the lights in the mall turning on, which has Ellie in this state of awe.
Yeah.
Absolutely blown away. It was a beautiful sight that I suppose Ellie has never seen before. Because the world that they have is absolutely not at all like what we have right now, such as us being on Twitch, live stream, vlogging, doing all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Absolutely blew her away.
Yeah, I look at it and like you go through a lot of the stuff and it's like she's so fascinated with really how privileged we are.
Yes.
You see that in the last episode where she's like, were these really the things that people worried about?
Yeah.
So
Boys and hair and all this weird stuff.
Yeah, doing, like, oh, do I do this and this, and do I do my hair, and oh, does he really like me, or blah blah blah, backstabbing this and whatever else, like all the very privileged things that we get. She's fascinated, like by some of it, and then she's confused by some of it.
Yeah, because it doesn't make sense to her. It's such a different world.
Yeah, like see, and this is where, like, when I listened to the podcast, I was kind of like, I didn't like their view, like when they saw the Victoria's Secret store.
Oh, yeah.
And the girls are like joking about it, and they're
Mm-hmm.
just like, oh well, like they just didn't get raised in a society like ours, so it's more accepting and everything. And it's just kind of like, no, these are two people that are trying to figure out still who they are.
Yes.
Like there's, maybe there's some feelings there, but they don't know totally what those feelings are yet. And then they see
Mm-hmm.
this Victoria's Secret and they're kind of like, that looks extremely uncomfortable. Like,
How do you move around in that? Yeah.
why would I want to wear that? Like, it doesn't fully make sense to them because like all their whole world is what's practical. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um and so yeah, but at the same time she's very curious about it, and then they talk about, the other thing she kind of asked Riley about was the why were some stores empty and other stores
Yes.
still have, why did other stores still have stuff in them? And
Yeah.
Riley's first, well, they took the stuff that they needed, and it's like, so they took all of, I can't remember the store, but they didn't take bath soap, you know. Like,
Who needs to clean yourself? What you need is you need to defend yourself, right? You need
yeah,
to survive, and toilet paper or soap, sorry, is very low on the totem pole for that.
I do wish I had written that down. That she was like, oh well, they took all the stuff from this store, but why didn't they take bath soap?
Hey, they could take as much as they want. They could probably go bring it to Fedra, sell it off to them, make a small fortune, right?
Guess it wasn't toilet paper and a shortage of it, so you know.
Yeah, right.
um,
But yeah, we get some awesome scenes of Ellie being on an escalator for the very first time and being
oh yeah,
absolutely blown away by this amazing technology, which I thought was really, really, really funny. You know, she went down and then she would turn the other way and walk and be like, "Look, I'm not going anywhere." All
uh,
this nonsense.
it just reminds my one of my sisters is from like her and her family live in a small town in southern Utah.
Okay.
Um, and so her kids, you know, this was a long time ago, but you know, it's like probably when her oldest was like 8 or something like that. Came
Hmm.
came here and they went to the mall
Yeah.
and they saw an escalator for the first time. They were so fascinated.
I can't. I mean,
You
I
grow up
can't
with it,
imagine it
and
on it.
you know, like you grow up with it. Your parents take you on the stroller up it and down it. It's not as like it's still fascinating to you, but it's not as like moving stairs.
Yeah.
Like
What is this wizardry?
that's so cool, you know. Like and and
Yeah.
and it's you know like even though like the basics of a escalator have been around for like decades. I don't know when the escalators first came around. They're still kind of a cool
I don't know,
technology.
60s or 70s, I would assume.
Yeah,
Maybe before that, but
maybe
it's
50s.
been around for quite a while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's a cool technology, and so for Ellie to see that, yeah, her reaction was like, this is so cool, and yeah, that was when I saw
It
that,
was funny.
my thought went to my nieces and nephews' reaction like so many years ago.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. Yeah, and then one section that they hang out in for a little bit is as Ellie, or no, as Riley put it, these are kind of like the wonders for Ellie. So the very first one
Yes.
was the escalator. And another one that they came across that Ellie absolutely loved was the arcade. So they went, they checked out a couple different games, and Ellie was, and as excited as she was, she realized, I don't have any money on me. I don't have these coin tokens that we need for playing the games, which Riley is like, hey, check this out. Opens up the dispenser, and there's like all the coins that you can need for like months probably of playing video games. They decide to set up shop over at Mortal Kombat 2, which was shown off I don't know how many times, but I swear if there's a Mortal Kombat 2 coming out on the PlayStation 5, I'm going to be so disappointed because it is like the video game that they show off in HBO's The Last of Us.
Yeah, like and yeah, and that was one thing that yeah, in their official podcast when I listened to it, they're like it just wasn't they based the game that they had in the game off of Mortal Kombat, but they were not going
Mm-hmm.
to pay for the rights to put Mortal Kombat in The Last of Us.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah,
um,
because this episode, I think they must have paid a small fortune because it's not like a Wells Fargo sign. I saw obviously MK. There was a bunch of different games that they had there that they showed the
yeah,
titles of.
and that was one thing that I was thinking like with the money when Riley like, well, did you like our money now would mean absolutely nothing to them.
Yeah.
It's of course that's the one thing that we missed before this is the merry-go-round. They go to the
Yes.
merry-go-round before and ride around on the merry-go-round, and I don't remember. Does that break down for a second?
It does. Yeah.
Yeah, it breaks down, but then they see the photo booth, and that's when
Oh,
Riley is like, she's like, oh, well, I came prepared for this. She was prepared for the photo booth because once she knew Ellie would be fascinated with it. And she's like, I came prepared, and it was like $5 for I think it was $5 for the photo booth.
Which is actually pretty realistic. It's a few bucks for like 3, 4 photos. So yeah.
Yeah. So, so she's like, yeah, I came prepared for this and put it in. But it still kind of said to me, like, she just knew that, oh, I got to get something that matches this and do that.
Yeah.
Because once again, it's like money doesn't matter to them. Or, like there's credits.
Yeah. Money would be something that wouldn't be taught in like the Fedra school.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't
It
we're
doesn't
kind of
exist.
going we're going back to like the 17 1800s where it's more like the traits that you do is in weapons, it is in animals because animals produce food and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So you trade in either protection or sustenance, like something to stay alive with, right? And yeah, like that paper money means nothing because who cares about being rich? What matters is survival.
Yeah. And so it's like when Ellie's like, well, I need money for this, and Ellie's, or Riley's like, here's $1, and she's like, no, the coin stuff.
Yeah, the coins, the tokens, we need that.
That stuff.
Like
Oh, okay.
obviously, come on, who doesn't know that?
And that's when it's like Riley's been preparing this place for a while because she's like,
Yeah,
I spent like a whole day just trying to rip that thing open, so that I could get you here because she knew everything that Ellie needed, to experience everything, but she was kind of letting Ellie figure out a lot of this stuff or kind of walk through it herself. But
yeah, and that's roughly around the time where we get a scene of there is an infected somewhere in the dark corners of the mall that has not been seen before.
yeah,
It looks like it had been there for a really long time because there was so much stuff like growing on the walls and
yeah,
on the floor all around it.
it was an older one, but it wasn't quite a clicker yet,
Yeah,
right? That's kind of, I don't know if there's a specific name for that one. I know there's like the runners, the clickers, the bloaters, all of which we've seen so far in the
yeah.
show. But I'm trying to think what if they have a specific name for that, like in between a runner and a clicker.
I don't know, but yeah, it can still move fairly good. But yeah, we get the next thing that we have. Well, that's memorable to me, and correct me if I'm wrong. We have this scene where Riley at the beginning, when she got into the room, actually took Ellie's Walkman.
Oh
So this
yeah.
is the part where Riley pulls it out, starts playing music, and they put on these masks, like Halloween masks. Or no, actually, go ahead. Yeah.
First, they actually Riley's like, I got a gift for you, and
Yeah.
it's something very important. It's one of your favorite parts of the show. She takes them to the food court,
Woo!
and they go behind and back, and that's how Ellie finds out Riley's been stationed there by the Fireflies. And because
Yeah.
she had, because she later sees like the little bombs or whatever that Riley made.
Absolutely loses her mind, O'Reilly, about that one. Yeah.
But that's also the gift Riley was giving her is the now I can't remember the name of the book. It was the pun book.
Yes. Yes.
Volume
I believe
2.
it's like a volume 2. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah, she's
so
blown away. Like they made another one. Yeah.
Yeah, so um yeah, so that's an important thing because it's like she's reading that book and laughing with Joel in
Mm-hmm.
episode 4.
Yep.
And so it kind of brings you back to Riley gave her that book,
Yep.
And so, but then then she gets mad because she sees Riley's made bombs, and but Riley's like, I would never use that bomb on you. Like, and she's
Yeah.
like, but what if they told you to?
Yeah, because Ellie is smart enough to know that why would they listen to Riley, who is this brand new recruit? Like Ellie knew that there's this hierarchy that's going to be in every single thing in order to be listened to, respected, and actually go with your opinion. You need to have this level of respect. So why would they listen to somebody that they know is from this section of no, 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 don't blow this up kind of deal? So
Yeah.
yeah, Ellie clued into that right away, which kind of made Riley a little bit quiet. And Riley opens up, oh, look, I was about to turn 17, or I am about to turn 17. And what they told me is, or from Fedra, is that she'd be something like a, I can't remember what exactly it was, but it's like a very low ranking guard, like almost a janitor level
Yeah,
kind of thing.
she
Is
was like sewage detail or something like that.
yeah, something like that, where it's like, in this day and age, actually working in sewage and everything probably pays pretty good, but money doesn't matter, right? And
Yeah.
what they would look at is you have a very dirty job that stinks that nobody wants to do. So you're very much not respected within Fedra. Like they don't see a lot of
Potential.
what you can give. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, that's when Ellie gets really mad and starts to like, I'm just leaving. And she starts
Yeah.
to leave, and she actually gets to the electrical room where she and Riley had first.
Yeah, it's like their entrance corridor area,
Yeah, first
entrance
entered
exit.
in, and
Yeah.
then she goes back. Um, yeah, then she goes back to, or starts to walk back towards Riley. And then Riley, with her very bad timing, and I was freaking out, like, oh, is this when it happens? Because I couldn't, like, is this when it
They changed it
happened?
up a little bit.
Because you hear, ah,
Yeah.
and
All
so
this screaming going on.
Ellie books it, and there's Riley kind of sitting there, kind of sulking, like,
Yeah, she had her back propped up against the side of whatever the heck you would call it, like this little wall thing, right?
the little store um, front, or the store
Yeah, that's what I was like. I
sales
don't know the
desk or
proper name of
whatever.
it. Yeah, yeah, the wall of the sales desk. And yeah, they have another moment where they talk quite a bit about stuff, and then like what I said prior, turn on some music, put on those Halloween masks because they're in like a little Halloween store, which is why
Yeah,
the screaming thing got set off.
yeah, it was a little
And
graveyard thing.
yeah, those motion sensor ones. Yeah. And yeah, they start to have a good time. They've been laughing and giggling and basically making a lot of noise.
Yeah, and
So, mhm.
that's so they've been making a lot of noise. That's when Ellie takes off her mask, and it's something like I said, like, this part doesn't really bug me because, one, I knew it doesn't bug me anyway. It's when her and, well, she just goes in for that kiss with Riley. Yeah.
Yes.
Some people that might be uncomfortable for. Um, like me, I just, like I, I knew it was coming, and they've
Yeah.
kind of hinted at it a little bit in the show, but not much. It's very,
Yeah,
very,
in the
very,
show, not much at all.
very, very subtle if they've really said anything about about it. But really, at this time, and this is where I think the like Neil Druckmann and Craig, I can't think of his last name, kind of tried to say,
Maybe on the last episode of this, you'll get it down.
yeah.
I haven't actually listened to the podcast in a few weeks, so I don't know.
But they tried to push like, oh, that's when they tried to push like, oh, well, they're this, and I think this is really like Ellie doesn't know exactly what this is. I think she's curious about it, but this is when I think she's like, like I, she likes Riley. She trusts Riley. There's a lot there other than Riley's a girl. It's something that somebody she very much trusts and cares about. And, whether she, and so that's where, I think, okay, well, they can go in that direction. And they didn't have to go in that direction. It could be just really, really, really good friends. But, and that's what I liked about the story is no matter what, I still saw Ellie and Riley as the best of friends. Total trust. If Riley had stayed in the Fedra and everything and gone to sewage school, Ellie would have gone and turned into like a captain or like higher ranking, and she would have brought Riley up and out of that with her.
Yeah, definitely.
That's that friendship is that, like, I know you got a crappy job. I got this better thing. And I'm just going to bring you on to, say, like my security detail or, like something like I'm going to get you a better job because I can. Because I know you better. Like that's the type of friendship. It doesn't have to be like sexual or anything like that. It could have been or whatever, but like it didn't. If they hadn't chose that storyline, the way they showed this, they really could have been just the best of friends, and that's what I liked about the episode. Or that's one of the things I really liked is they were the best of friends.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. But yeah, we find out as well that this is actually Riley's last day that it's supposed to be, and they did have like this huge talk about it, and Riley and Ellie, they're gonna stick together kind of thing. And after they have their moment together, then it ends up getting interrupted because this is a TV show and we have to interrupt good things. You just can't keep it going for too long.
Yeah, they give you good things and then they rip them away.
Absolutely torn away. This is still like has some horror elements to it, so
so that's when the I don't know, we'll say stalker comes in and attacks. Who does an attack first? I don't remember.
Actually, it's just going towards them because they were still up on the platform or on the desk at the time, and Riley takes out her gun because fireflies, right?
Shoots a couple of times.
I think all the bullets she had, kind of thing. But she had like 3 or 4, which hey, for the last ones, that's actually pretty realistic.
Yeah.
You never have any bullets.
I got 3 bullets, guys. I got 3 bullets.
She didn't get a headshot with any of them. So not the best shot, not like Joel or Tommy. But anyways, then it lunges for them, and the girls are just in this state of panic where I think it goes first for Ellie, and Riley comes up from behind and has like this pole or whatever and bashes the infected with it. Which gets Ellie kind of safe, but then it goes after Riley because hey, gotta catch them all, right? Gotta get both of those girls.
Yeah, it goes after Riley, and then as Riley's fighting it off, Ellie comes with her knife and stabs it in the head.
Because yeah, Ellie's smart. Go for the head. Get it done.
Yeah,
Do it
veteran
right.
Thor.
Yeah. And then after that, they're panting. That adrenaline is still rushing through them really, really, really fast. And then at first, Ellie notices that she gets bit on the forearm. As those teeth marks, the blood starts to come out. She starts to panic. And you see Riley's being really quiet. She's also sweaty, like all this kind of stuff going on. And it shows that on her hand, she has a bite there. So both of them got bit. Both of them got infected. And then they both slump once again against this desk area and kind of have this talk of, well, what are we going to do now? And Riley goes off about how there's different options of what they could go for, it was really interesting seeing Ellie in the light of she doesn't know that she's immune to anything, and seeing how she reacted when she thought, this is it, this is over. We either have a few minutes, maybe we have a day, maybe two max. And they talk about how are we going to spend these final minutes. And that's what Riley says, we have different options. And there's another option which she didn't want to say, which it would basically be do yourselves in.
Well,
Now,
the first option was kill yourself.
Yeah. Oh, that was the first option. Oh, there you go. Option A.
Option B was just basically kind of like ride it through, if I'm remembering correctly. And then option 3 was I don't want to go into it, which is I guess we'll never really find out what option 3 was. But
could be good. Maybe it's like turn yourselves in that you're infected, but you know what? It'd be one of those things where it's like, oh well, maybe there's a cure kind of thing. Maybe we got like a few hours. Maybe we can find a cure over at Fedra. That was my wishful thinking, but I don't think so because it's just so unrealistic. Like, why get your hopes up?
Yeah.
The more or less it's usually write it on, just become infected, become part of the problem, or get rid of yourselves.
How they went back and forth on this, because they went from Ellie getting bitten and Ellie freaking out, and then I think they went to Ellie back with Joel, or back at the house.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I believe that's the end of it. Was that?
And then they went back to Riley and Ellie talking, and Ellie's like, I'm not going to leave you.
Trying to find anything to help out Joel.
Yeah.
Because that was basically at the point that she was feeling in that conversation. It's like, is there anything we can do? And that's where they go back to, conversing about like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Like, there's no real hope. It's just you have a couple of options, right?
Yeah.
But it's kind of reflecting of how Ellie is as a person, because as we have seen in this season so far, is she wants to save everybody. She is the most optimistic person in such a cynical world that she lives in. She wants to save everybody. She wanted to save Sam. She wants to save Joel right in this moment of the show.
Yeah.
I mean, she wishes that she could have saved Tess, like everybody that she's ever come into contact with. One thing I forgot to mention is in this episode, Marlene is brought up. And at that time, Ellie had no idea who she was. It was just a name.
Yeah, because Riley says, well, Marlene said no. And she's just like, who's that? She's the leader of the Fireflies. And so she learns then who she is that she's the leader of the Fireflies. Other than that, she doesn't know. And really that kind of says to me, like, especially when they get to the like episode 1, like how she didn't know Marlene very well. I think she maybe remembered the name from talking to Riley. But it's kind of interesting how I liked how they did this, because technically even in the game, this is where that expansion sat.
Yeah.
was right in that spot, right in this spot. And it leads into probably one of the I don't know, more disturbing parts of the game, I guess, of this one.
A part of the game where if anyone, if you're seeing this before the next episode comes out, probably don't have your kids around at all for it. If they do end up doing it, because it is a sexual. When you play the video game itself, you would not want to have kids around probably because it's gross. It's absolutely disgusting.
There's some there's some kind of disturbing things, but so far HBO's done a lot of stuff like with more respect on stuff. It's kind of like you were talking about the anxiety attacks and how they handled that with like a good amount of respect and everything.
Yeah, it'll be interesting if they do it or not. If they do that part. But yeah, let's just finish this part up. At the very tail end of the episode, we do have Ellie that did manage to find some stitches and needle, like some thread, really, to do some stitches onto Joel's wound because he was, like I said, he was
bleeding
super
out.
gray. He was looking like he was on death's door kind of thing.
Yeah.
And she manages to do it. And what I thought was really cool is they show a shot of as Ellie is stitching up Joel, the amount of like focus, and it almost seemed like she's the kind of intellect where if she sees it once or if she hears the name once, she'll know it, and she could pull that from her resources in her mind anytime. Because just watching, I was like, she knew what she was doing. She didn't put any painkillers on Joel. Joel's like reaching up a little bit, like because the needle's going right into the skin and doing that. But yeah, and then that is really that was the end of the episode, right?
And it's kind of interesting because you see at the time, it's like when Ellie comes back with the stitches or the needle and thread and everything, she holds Joel's hand and he squeezes it back.
Yeah, like he's still there kind of thing because he looked a little bit like he may have been dead. And I was like,
because
doing this to me,
because Joel's thing right now is he's still like, I don't want to be a dad, but I care for this girl like a daughter. And and that's a very important thing for the game and for the story is that he has and really this if they run this next episode like that, you're this will, if they do this, and I in a lot of ways I hope they do.
I think they will because it's an integral part, I still think, of the video game. Not one that should be like you could gloss over, kind of like what they did in episode 2 or 3, with Bill and all them.
Yeah.
They could change it, but I don't think they will because it also it's a part of Ellie's growth as a character as well.
Yeah, I think and honestly, if they used all their budget on the violence, blood, and gore for the last 2 episodes, this is a good episode.
Yeah, because there's gonna be a lot.
This is a good episode to get into some of it because there's in all the special effects and all the other these next 2 episodes will really kind of get into that, and I'm excited to see what they do because the next episode in game would have been now I'm Nolan North.
In the video game, that's like where we're learning how to use Ellie, which was like a huge surprise to me.
And that's where I'm
like,
in the game. In the game, the guy that she meets is Nolan North doing the voice. Nathan Drake.
Yeah, I don't want to do spoilers, but there is a new trailer that came out, and it shows. I saw on
Troy
IGN
Baker.
that it's Troy Baker.
Troy
So
Baker's in the next episode. Who, for
is Troy
those that
Baker going to
not,
be the evil person?
and no, I don't. It doesn't look like he's the evil person. But yeah, for those who
Good.
don't know, Troy Baker is the voice of Joel in the video game.
Yeah,
He's a very he's a pretty popular voice actor. So, but
he's accomplished a lot in his career with voice
the
acting. He's
The
done very well
Last
for
of Us
himself.
is his big thing. In the game, Troy Baker, in Uncharted 4, Troy Baker is the voice of Nathan Drake's brother.
Yep.
So, um, yeah, and so he was a big, anyway, but yeah, so, um, so there wasn't as many, like sometimes I probably get really into the psychological, like, this is why they were thinking this, and this is what they were doing, and this is how they do that. And um, this one wasn't quite as much of that, but like I say, at the same time, there's certain things. I think my big one was it was a true, like I with this one I did feel that Riley and Ellie were real friends.
Yeah, that's
Um,
fair. That's fair.
where I wasn't completely sold on the Bill and
Frank?
Frank
Yeah.
relationship.
Hmm.
Like I was like, okay, well, they're getting along, but in some ways, to me, it seemed like it was more forced. But
Oh, yeah, because I kind of looked at it as Frank or figured that it was a way for him to survive
yeah,
because he is a guy that's vulnerable, that's all by himself, that shares the same view on sexuality.
yeah,
And he could kind of use that to his benefit as a way to just like chill out and not have to be running around all over the place trying to survive. That was the impression that I got, and then potentially it blossomed into more because they did hang out for a lot of years.
yeah,
But yeah, with Ellie and Riley, it felt like they grew up in that system together in Fedra,
yeah,
and Ellie looked at Riley as a protector because that was like the first scene that we had when they were in that gymnasium running around in circles. Was, hey, your protector isn't here, so what are you going to do?
yeah,
Because Riley is probably like half a foot at least taller than Ellie. So, but yeah, it was, they did seem like friends because they both had similar interests in things like the video games and
yeah,
their their humor with puns. They absolutely loved puns together. I thought it was really funny. They shared a lot of laughs together. It was two young girls turning into teenagers and trying to find their place in the world,
yeah,
and the world is tough. You're either a frontline grunt or you're going to be the one giving the orders to the grunts. And they were kind of on opposite sides of that river. And like you said, Ellie is the kind of person where she sees a person as a person. And
yeah,
it's almost like I view Ellie as, if she was a judge, she'd be like, you're innocent until you're proven guilty. So
yeah,
you're going to be a good person in my books, but once you do something bad to me, then you're bad. But Ellie still wants to believe in people.
yeah,
So even though she gave stitches to that one chick that said that egged her on, really,
yeah,
I could always see Ellie later on being like, "Hey, are we good now?" and try to hash things out. Would
yeah,
still probably swear at you and like make fun of you and all this kind of stuff, like razz a little bit. But Ellie is not like an evil kind of person that's just out there to kill everybody.
yeah. She's not
So
she's not a hard person, but she's, yeah, it's kind of like her weakness, and it's kind of like a, I guess I would say it's like a teenage type of thing, is her emotions, and it's controlling those emotions.
Yeah, she's got all the hormones starting to go crazy. She's at that age where things are happening. You're going to get your first this. You're
Yeah.
ever going to have a growth spurt? I don't know. Ellie's pretty short still, and she's like 14 or 15. um, but it was a good episode. It felt a little bit short because if we're looking at the actual timeline of things, we're talking like a couple hours past.
Yeah.
You go from
Yeah,
like
where other ones are like sometimes days.
days, yeah,
Yeah,
months of
episode
driving
4.
around trying to find stuff.
I think episode
Yeah.
4 was like 2 days of
Mhm.
time. Um,
Yeah, this one was more like they had the expansion and they had that one moment in the game, which in video game time is like a few minutes, if that.
yeah.
The expansion itself is like a few hours, but yeah, like it was still good. It was important because it was we now understand Ellie's backstory as much as we're going to understand it at this point.
Yeah.
And everybody should feel a lot more. Either they relate to Ellie more, or they're like, "Oh yeah, okay, so she is this." But you know who she is now because she never had her moment to shine in the show yet. This was Ellie with Joel,
Yeah.
or having a scene with a different main character for that episode. But yeah, that was about it. I would score out of 10 being the best. What would you give it?
Um gosh. I'd give it a solid 8 to 8.5.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, this one for me was one of the weaker ones, just because I don't know, I viewed it a little bit as like a coming of age thing, and I was like,
Mm.
eh. um, but it is important. It has some cool parts to it. I was right in the ballpark with you. I was thinking an 8.
I
So yeah,
so like, like I would put this story-wise cuz it's kind of an independent story from the main storyline.
yeah, just like the Bill and Frank thing.
It's very similar to the Bill and Frank thing. But
Yeah.
ultimately I saw this one giving more push to the main storyline than the Bill and Frank did. Bill and
Okay.
Frank seemed like, hey, here's these two guys and blah blah blah, and they killed each other. They one died, the other killed himself afterwards, and you take their truck.
Yeah.
Like it's like, well,
It's all about getting that stupid battery, man.
yeah.
Hey, you get a
Um,
truck out of it too, some ammo. Yeah, you're good.
and so like episode 3, I is just like, I know a lot of people are like, oh, episodes 3, it was so great and this and that, and I'm like, no, because like ultimately it it added nothing. Like when you're only doing 9 episodes,
hmm
there should really be no dead episodes
Yeah.
in my mind. Like, okay, you have and especially with the thing on this thing, and ultimately that one just felt like a dead episode because of how they went through the process of it. It was like,
The worst part was the fact that Joel killed himself. If that didn't happen and you had Bill being a character that would be like a recurring character, then I would have been more okay with it. Because this episode was like, on one hand, you could view it as filler, but for me, it's like this is an episode where you understand Ellie, and you need to understand Ellie. You
yeah,
have to. She
and
is the one of two characters that you need to care about. Where it was kind of like with Joel in episode 1, you could be like, well, this was laying the ground floor, but it's also you understand who Joel is. This is why you should care about him, and this is the reason why he is who he is.
well, and the thing
But
like
yeah,
with
Bill and Frank is like they're just NPCs in the video game. They're around for like, well, Frank isn't. I don't think,
Frank
but
isn't even around.
Bill's.
He's dead long before. Because that was one thing
Yeah,
I didn't mind how they changed how Frank died. Because Frank just left and then got killed by zombies
yeah,
or killed by runners and clickers and everything.
yeah.
Because he was putting together the truck on the other end of town, and everything. And so that's where it's like, okay, well, I don't mind that they changed that, because I don't think they necessarily needed to go on the long trek with
Mm-hmm.
with it. But we learned from this episode, Ellie doesn't like authoritarian bullies, right?
Yep.
Bill's the perfect character to be that authoritarian bully. Like, do this because I told you to do it. Like that type of
Yeah.
thing. How do you think Ellie's going to react to that? Like,
Yeah,
well,
there could have been
F
some pretty
you,
banter there.
she's
Yep.
she's gonna tell him to go F himself. She's gonna be like a smart aleck with him until Joel says, I need you to calm down. Can you calm down for me? Or whatever, like kind of
Yep.
do that. And then Ellie like, okay,
Yeah,
I'll
he needs to
back
be the
off.
medium between the two of them. Yeah.
But like it, she's still going to, with Bill, she's still going to push his buttons
Mm-hmm.
underneath. And that's like when she has the gay magazine in the truck, she stole the magazine, like it wasn't just sitting in the back of the truck. It's like Bill had it in his stash of stuff and she stole it.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
whereas in episode 2, or whichever one, no, it's a
episode
later
3,
one. 3, yeah. Whereas she just so happens to find it's just laying there in the back seat.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so like that's where it's like I while there's certain things about episode 3 that were really good, I don't think it kicked any juice into the main storyline. It was just here's an independent thing, and they get they'll get a truck and some food out of it, like
Mm-hmm.
it ultimately ended up, for the full storyline, just be a way for um uh yeah, just for Ellie. Yeah, I don't know. It just wasn't what it needed to be, in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
for the entire show. If it was just its own little thing,
Yeah.
they could do a whole series on that just for its own little thing, and that would be fine. But yeah, just the change that they made, I was kind of like, you're kind of going in a direction that didn't help the whole story. Where
Yeah, absolutely.
this one really
Yeah.
pushed the whole story, and it pushes who Ellie is, which is more important too.
It
So
is. Yeah. You have to understand Ellie to really, really get what's going to be coming up, or what I assume is going to be coming up next.
so
So
so yeah,
it was all right, and now I think we're going to be seeing the storyline move along fairly quickly.
yeah, because they got a
Um,
lot of movement that they need to do over the next 2 episodes.
they do,
Um,
they do.
and
Unless they're long episodes, yeah.
I wouldn't doubt if they're closer to 90-minute episodes. At least episode 9 will be close to a 90-minute episode.
It'll be really interesting to
Um,
see how
if
they do finish up that season. Because if they do finish it the same way as they do with the video game, it's awesome. It's fantastic. But I'm wondering if they may change up, like, maybe have a little bit more after where it cuts off with the video game. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I
But
think they'll
I'm excited.
add a whole lot more, um,
Mm-hmm.
uh, to the end, rather than just where it's at. So
Yeah, yeah, because this isn't really spoilers, but there's a lot of fighting at the end. And with the TV show, the fighting is very secondary.
yeah,
So unless you make a fight scene last like half an hour to an hour or something, I
yeah,
think there'll be a lot more
because
story
I
coming.
think at
Yeah.
least the next, like this next episode, there will be a lot of fighting, and
Mm-hmm.
there's really more towards the end of episode 9, where like honestly, they to go into a season 2 and the
Mm-hmm.
story behind season 2,
Mm-hmm.
episode 9 has to be very gory.
Yeah, yeah. It'll be interesting, man. It'll be really interesting to see what
Um,
happens. But yeah,
but or I don't know if gory's the right, but very action packed through a part of it. So I'll be interested to see.
yeah. It's hard to talk a lot about it without doing like spoilers. That's why I'm like, I don't know,
um,
but yeah,
yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what they do and how they um uh yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with them. So it'll be I'll be excited to I'm excited every week for them. And
yeah.
like I said, I think they did a good job. It wasn't my top episode, but
It'd be one of the lower ones for me, but it's not about what we could actually do later on, like the week following the finale, is we could always do like a rating, like our personal ratings of our favorite episode to our least favorite episode.
yeah. Um yeah, cuz so far, gosh, um 1 and 2 are I think really good. Um Parts of 4, 5 was really good. Um 6 wasn't bad, but 6 had a lot of emotional stuff in it, which I found really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and a lot of stuff about mental health in 6.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, lots.
uh, and then, 7 really, for me, was all about friendship. And like, that's where I really like this one is, like with
Mm-hmm.
my friends that I have, I really cherish my friendships. Um, and so that's where this one holds a lot more weight for me is that I really saw friendship there. Where
Okay.
they tried to push it as a relationship or potential relationship, I don't think it ever
Yeah,
got
because
to
it's
that
like the amount
point.
of times that they showed Ellie looking at Riley in that sort of like a longing sort of way.
Yeah,
It was just one of
or
those things where I kept wondering, it's like, okay, when are they going to do this scene? When are they going to do this scene? Because I thought it was an inevitability.
and
Um,
and I
it
really
is what
felt
it
like
is.
it wasn't like looking at her in a longing way, but looking
Mm.
at her in a
Or like admiring her or something.
I like an I wonder, like
Okay,
I'm curious about something. I'm not sure what I'm curious about, but I'm curious about something. So
okay.
it's kind of the longing, but not quite. It's like I'm curious. Like
Hmm.
I'm I it's kind of like, well, I'm finding parts about her attractive, but she's my really good friend and everything, and that's what I saw out of it. It was just kind of like I'm curious, and Riley kind of saying stuff that she's just like I'm curious about stuff, but it wasn't like, oh, I just want her right now or anything like that. It was
Oh
kind of
yeah, yeah. It wasn't like not
it
like a
it
lusting for her or nothing. No.
yeah, it was just that curiosity, which really goes
Hmm.
better for like I mean where Riley was 16, she would
Hmm.
maybe know, but like like that's the other thing when you're growing up in a society like this, this
Hmm.
one compared to like where ours is now, well, they weren't seeing Victoria's Secret catalogs all the time, and
That's
they
true.
don't
There's like no
have
media.
yeah, they don't have access to a lot of the stuff that we have that would, like over sexualize you and like over politicize you. And, it's like, how much is, how much are we how much is our oftentimes our political opinions skewed by which um, stations that we watch and internet algorithms that are now built into our system, like
Yes.
yeah.
Your account on Google is part of the algorithm.
Yeah, and so it's like whatever it's kind of like I remember Alkali Lake posted, she's like, well, because of all this stuff that I search up for and with cosplay stuff, she's like,
Mm-hmm.
I get recommended some really freaky things. And so it's like I just kind of like, oh, geez, what's in her search history? And um so but like with Ellie and Riley, they're not exposed to a lot of that.
Yeah,
And
no, the most that they would get would probably be leftover remnants from the before time.
yeah,
Like the music that they get is like that Sony Walkman. First off, I thought it was great placement for Sony. Secondly, are they trying to bring back Walkmans? Because if so, I'm on board for this. That was
there's
cool.
still Walkmans that you can buy.
Is there? No way. Yeah, because that was like a cassette player.
They're just. I think they're just. Um,
but yeah, so most of what they get is, like I said, things that still
MP3
work.
players.
Oh, MP3 players. Okay, cool. Yeah, that one looked like it was a cassette, but no, I'm not going to get one now. I don't care anymore. $90, I'll be like, okay, sure.
90, maybe 200. 900, no.
No, after taxes, spending about $1,000, forget it.
Does it teleport me?
It's got to definitely have a lot of different functionalities for $900.
Yeah.
Because like a cell phone, you just get a plan with it, and maybe you're spending a couple $100 up front. Otherwise, it's zero up front. You get a phone that you can do like anything off of it. But yeah, I would say that pretty much wraps it up. I think for the episode, it was good. It wasn't great, but I'm excited for the next one because I think the next one will be a lot better, and then the one after that will probably be even better. I'm hoping. My expectations are definitely higher for the last 2 episodes of this season, which has gone by really quickly.